Touchdown BC is sponsored by CFC. CanadaFootballChat.com is a national amateur football website and a source for high school and recruiting news in Canada. CFC's mission is to promote players, coaches, administrators, teams, and leagues from coast to coast. 40-plus local reporters write CFC's content covering Canadian, NCAA, and CIS recruiting, and high school players and teams across the continent. Touchdown BC is also sponsored by Chris Peckett. Veteran trial lawyer and football coach is now restricting his law practice to motor vehicle personal injury claims. Call his office at 604-519-6060 for a free consultation.
Welcome to episode 10 of Touchdown BC. He's Adam Kordick. I'm Ty Clark. What a crazy weekend this was. Adam, why don't you tell us what happened?
Yeah, we had some close community games being played. We had UBC going into Calgary for the Hardy Cup final, and also tons of great playoff games in high school across the board.
It's true, and but in the CIS, there's some huge upsets. For the most part, there's a bunch of the favorites won in high school. Not all of them, of course.
Yeah, Prince George, the Polars, became the first Northern Conference team to win a playoff game. It's never been done before. They were the first to do it. And for more on high school, Ty, what happened?
What a weekend in high school football across the province. With the playoffs going on in some conferences in AA, it was the first week of playoffs in AAA football, and there were no shortage of exciting games across the board. Win or lose, I have never seen so many players leave it all on the field and put up some ridiculous stats. Now let's jump into the action.
South Delta, Mount Boucherie, Sport Canada TV's Game of the Week, and what a game it was. First quarter, Michael Calvert scrambles around, finds a seam, and just like that, South Delta is off to an early 8-6 lead. And after an uneventful first quarter, next cue we go. South Delta caps off their drive with Grant McDonald taking it home for 6. But Mount Bouche would actually mount a comeback. Tyler Toak drops back, but no! This isn't a white jersey. Alec Patterson with the INT and a great run back too. So South Delta gets the ball back and Old McDonald harvests some more points for blue and yellow. South Delta starting to pull away now. South Delta has the ball again and Michael Calvert looks to put the game on ice, but Luke Vincent has other ideas. Vincent takes the ball into Sun Devil territory. Nice run back. And it didn't take long for TT to find his favorite wideout, Dayton Moore, to get Mount Bouche back into this one. But the Sun Devils weren't too interested in letting the Bears get back into it. Don't believe me? Then ask Michael Calvert, who waltzes in for his second rushing touchdown of the day. This kid is awesome. But the Bears are who we thought they were. Tyler Toak to Ty Churong, try to say that 10 times fast. And the guys with amazing first names really do get the Bears back into it. The Bears weren't done there either as Toak goes airborne once again, this time connected with Chris Smith to bring Mount Boucherie within a score. And this was no glitch. Mount Boucherie comes back and Toak throws another laser beam to Ty Churong once again. But it's the Sun Devils' turn, and they look to a familiar face with Grant McDonald, the epitome of a power back, bursting through a gap up the middle, and it's just too quick for the Bears defenders, putting the Sun Devils back on top. And after the onset of the third quarter, the ball went back into the hands of Michael Calvert, which is never a good sign for opposing teams, let's just say that. Calvert is just too fast and elusive, Sun Devils starting to pull away once again. And just as Mount Bouche needed a big drive, Toak finds one of his favorite targets, Alec Patterson, who just happens to be on the other team. And on the very next play, you already knew if it wasn't Calvert, it was Grant McDonald. And Mr. McDonald would supersize his Mount Boucherie meal with his third TD of the evening. The Bears looked to respond though, and this one right out of the Notre Dame Jugglers playbook, or so it seemed. Toak to Smith, who looks deep to Dayton Moore, takes it all the way in for the score. Bears aren't completely out of it. Sun Devils will be forced to punt, so it's Toak time, or so we thought. This one hurts the Bears with the Sun Devils pick deep into Mount Bouche territory. Kyle Chase in at QB, and he'd hand it off to their other running back, Charlie Moore, who takes it to the right side and bruises his way in for the TD. But on the ensuing kickoff, the ball goes right into the hands of Eden McLeod, and it looks like he's got nothing, but all of a sudden a trench emerges right in front of him, and the big man looks like he could go the distance until the other number 26 of the playbook, Alec Patterson, tracks him down. With that great field position, Toa could go back to work, this time finding the Bears' best offensive threat, Dayton Moore, who does it all himself, his third TD of the day. With time on the Sun Devils side, Toa would try to get Mount Bouche back in it, finding Moore for his 4th receiving touchdown of the evening and Toek's 7th passing touchdown, but it would be too little too late, with South Delta winning 59-49. And with the win, South Delta moves on to face the number 1 team in the province, the Terry Fox Ravens, at BC Place on Saturday at 5:30. New West, Handsworth, New West in Royal Territory, and just like that, True Dancy dances in to put the Hawks on the board. Long after that, New West back in Royal Territory, and they do it again. Dancy with his 2nd of the day, Hayaks out to an early 14-0 lead. Handsworth gets the ball back though, and Jacob G, one of the favorites on our show, makes a great grab for the Royals. Second quarter we go, True Dancy takes the rock and makes no mistake, his 3rd of the day for the Hayaks. And seemingly right after that, David Penalver, the speedster, takes it outside but makes a couple beautiful cuts at midfield and just keeps pushing it to the house. Hayaks now up 27-0. Hayaks move it back into the red zone and True Dancy scores his 4th TD in the first half. But it wasn't just the offense that looked dominant, poor Sam Thole was seeing this all day long too. Third quarter and Handsworth comes out firing with Thole finding his favorite target, Jacob G, who twists and turns in for the score. And on New West's next possession, they hand it off to guess who? And guess what he does? That's right, folks, True Dancy just outruns everyone in sight for his 5th touchdown of the day. Handsworth get the ball back and look to use their greatest weapon, Jacob G, and would this be what it takes to get things going? I'll spare you some time by telling you, no, it wouldn't. New West defense still looking sharp. And on the ensuing drive, New West would march the ball downfield before handing off to Josh Olango. And this guy's got some skills too as he breaks tackle after tackle in for the TD. Then the 4th, Olango would score again with New West scoring once more later in the quarters. They win big 61-7. And after the decisive win, New West moves on to face St. Thomas More, with that game being played at BC Place on Saturday at 8 p.m. Taking a look at the other 2 playoff games in AAA, Notre Dame beat WJMO at 28-6, while Kelowna topped Argyle 27-7. After the Jugglers' victory, they'll move on to play the number 2 team in the province, the Vancouver College Fighting Irish, with that game taking place at BC Place at 3 p.m. on Saturday. After the Owls win over Argyle, Kelowna will head to Victoria to play the Mount Douglas Rams at West Hill Stadium on Friday at 1 p.m. And in AA, PGSS beat Robert Bateman 19-0 as the first Northern team to ever win a playoff game, while Carson Graham beat Hugh Boyd 35-12. With both of those teams winning games, PGSS will try to further their historic feat as they play Carson Graham at Hillside Stadium on Friday. Elsewhere in AA, Langley beat Bolinas 41-19 and Vernon topped Mission 7-0. So that means Vernon will play Langley at BC Place on Saturday at 10 a.m. Holy Cross also topped Windsor 28-6, and GW Graham beat South Kamloops 38-21. With that, Holy Cross and GW Graham will face off against each other at BC Place at 12:30 p.m. on Saturday. And in our last playoff matchups in AA, Abbotsford destroyed Pitt Meadows 58-8, while John Barsby just toyed with Mosscrop in a crushing defeat 77-0. And with those wins, Abbotsford will play John Barsby at Merle Logan Park in Nanaimo at 1 p.m. on Saturday. And in Tier 2, Howe Sound beat Eric Hamber 30-12 despite touchdowns by Jeff Roy and Arthur Mudry. In the other game, Spectrum beat Timberline 24-15. Here's a quick look at the final standings in Tier 2 before Spectrum takes on Earl Merritt in the playoffs at Burnaby Lakes on Friday at 3, while Rajit Kalia, Jeff Roy, and Arthur Mudry's Griffins have a rematch against Howe Sound at Burnaby Lakes on Friday at 5:30. And this week, we actually have 4 players of the week. True Dancy played a huge role in New West's dominant performance as he had 225 yards on the ground and 5 touchdowns. Graham McDonald was also a force in South Delta's win, with the powerback having 317 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns of his own. Tyler Toak may have had 3 interceptions in Mount Bouchery's loss, but he still finished the day with a whopping 492 passing yards and 7 touchdowns. Dayton Moore also did as much as he could in Mount Bouchery's loss to South Delta, as he finished the day with 9 receptions for 174 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Welcome to the BC High School Report. Joining me as he does every week in studio is Dino Jeremiah, our insider. Dino, let's get down to it. Let's start off with that shootout game. South Delta, Mount Bouche, 108 total points scored in this game. What happened in that one?
I think it was just a matter of both teams taking advantage of the turf, faster surface, and some great players really being highlighted. Grant McDonald from South Delta, he's a force both on the ground and on defense. Obviously not much defense in that game, but both teams coming up with some great offensive plays and really showcasing themselves.
Absolutely, and Mount Bouche, it was pretty good surprise to see them be able to go toe-to-toe with one of the better teams in the province. Of course, now South Delta has to play the #1 team in the province. Do you think that they stand a chance against the Ravens?
I think if there's anybody that matches them on the offensive and defensive line, South Delta has some good size on the offensive and defensive line. We talked about Grant McDonald, a big back, tough tackle. So I think if they can get into a little bit more of a slower game slugfest with Terry Fox, then I'd like to see that game. If they can keep it close early and not allow Terry Fox to get off on a running start, then the longer the game goes close, the better it is for South Delta.
And of course, your jugglers went and beat Mount WJ Mowat. And you guys have looked so good defensively recently. I know, of course, we've talked about Anthony Crescenzo and how the offense is booming, but how about this defense?
I think it's just a matter of the guys getting better as they go through the year, understanding the teams that they're going up against, and just playing hard. I think that just watching Notre Dame and being familiar with them, they've shown some good toughness as they get into those games, and they're not afraid to stand tough and go toe-to-toe with these teams. And that's going to serve them well as they go into Vancouver College this weekend.
Exactly, and actually you guys had the best game of the year against Vancouver College. What do you think is going to happen in this one?
I think it's going to be another great game. We've talked a little bit before about the Vancouver College Notre Dame rivalry. There's a lot of emotion that goes into it, but it's playoff time. Both teams familiar with each other, obviously played each other 2 weeks ago. So it's really going to be rising up. A great neutral site being played in BC Place, so the elements aren't a factor. Expect it to be a fast game. And yeah, it's going to be exciting.
And of course, we've been talking about throughout the season about how exceptionally strong the Western Conference seems to be. And as you can see in the game against Handsworth, New West just ran all over them. And they're going to be playing they're the #4 seed, and they're going to be playing the #5 seed next week in STM. Any predictions for that one?
You know what? That's a great game. Again, it's that closest thing to a rivalry game. They're about 2 blocks away from each other. A lot of the players know each other. The coaches know each other. I'm excited to see that game. They haven't played each other for a long time. They don't play each other in exhibition or during the season. So for them to come together in the playoffs, you know, there's a lot of territorial pride in going into that game as well. So there's, in all these games, there seems to be a little bit of a backstory. And certainly the biggest thing is going to be New West, their offense, being able to put up points. And STM, are they able to stop them? Are they able to continue that toughness on defense to stop that wing T offense in New West?
Well, there you have it. That's your BC High School Report with Dino Jeremiah.
This weekend will feature the final regular season games played in Midget, with the top 4 teams making it to the playoffs on the 29th. Things are getting exciting. This weekend, we will also see the start of playoffs in junior bantam and peewee ball. Good luck to those teams playing. But before we get into the playoff ball, let us recap the week that was the BCCFA.
BCFL Junior Bantam Championship. The Meadow Ridge Knights versus the Mission Niners. First cue, it's Mission QB Ethan Anderson on the QB keeper. Later, the Knights look to respond, but it's Niners DB Michael Guttard picking off Cody Hogarth. Big hops on that kid. Mission looks to make the Knights pay. Curtis Flynn takes the rock, pushes his buddy out of the way, and he will take it the rest of the way for the 15-yard rushing major. Mission up 2 scores. Meadow Ridge puts a nice drive together until this. Niners pick it off. It's Keenan Baker, the Undertaker, who earns himself a new nickname, but Cody Hogarth comes out of nowhere to take him down. Late second, Niners will take this game over with the help of Tyson Black. Black takes the handoff, finds a seam, and he is off, finishing off the 45-yard TD run. Next quarter, it's who else? Tyson Black, this time taking the rock and going 55 yards to the land of 6 points for his second rushing touchdown of the game. This guy is a cheat code. Niners up big. It's Tyson Black again, getting the handoff. This time, he would have to put in a little work. First putting on a massive stiff arm, then breaking a tackle. He's gone. 50-yard rushing major. Black gets his TD Hattie. Mission would get one more. It's Anderson again on the QB sneak. The Mission Niners are your 2015 BCFL Junior Bantam champs, beating the Meadow Ridge Knights 47-0. Now to the BCFL Pee-wee Championship game, Chilliwack Red versus Ridge Meadow Blue. The Giants would start the game off with a bang. It's QB Raiden Maston taking the QB keeper yard. Chilliwack Red's patent play works to perfection on this 50-yard rushing major. Giants up 6. Next cue, the Knights respond. Isaiah Cavelli calls his own number. He books it in the end zone for the 17-yard score. Same quarter, the Giants look to pass, but it's Knights' Gavin Winningham with an unbelievable one-handed pick. Not only a great catch, but check this run after. He goes outside, calling his own blocks, looking like a true pro. No one is catching this guy. He will take off all the way to pay dirt for 6 points. And that is your TDBC highlight of the night. Knights up, 1 score. Meadow Ridge next drive, it's Isaiah Cavelli again. First looks like he's going the wrong way, but never doubt this kid. Jukes back inside, then whoop, makes another guy miss, cuts the corner, and Cavelli is just too quick, taking the sideline all the way to the end zone for his second rushing major of the day. Second half, it turns out to be the Cavelli-Whittingham show. First, Whittingham takes the handoff and literally goes untouched on his way for the 15-yard score. Then it's Gavin again, this time taking the sweet play from 10 yards out. You know what's going to happen. He gets his second rushing major of the game. Giants' next drive, Isaiah Cavelli, like his teammate Whittingham, wants a pick 6. The Knights QB gets the INT, and he looks pick 6 from the very start, making one defender miss. Then all he has is daylight ahead, taking this INT 85 yards to the house. Cavelli and Whittingham team up for all of the Knights' touchdowns. The Meadow Ridge Knights are your 2015 BCFL Pee-wee champs, beating Chilliwack Blue 39-6. Congrats to the Meadow Ridge Knights, who are your BCFL Adam champs. Now let's take a look at the scores in Midget from this past weekend. Chilliwack shuts out Comox Valley, and Coquitlam, North Surrey, and Langley all get W's. To the standings we go. With only 1 week left, Langley is in first, followed closely by North Surrey. Victoria and Chilliwack hold down the 3 and 4 spots. Now to the BMFL Junior Bantam quarterfinal games. Cloverdale, North Surrey, Coquitlam, and South Delta all advance to the semifinals. Now let's check the scores from the quarterfinal games from the BMFL Pee-wee division. Both Coquitlam teams move on to the semis, along with North Delta and North Surrey.
And when we come back from break, the UBC Thunderbirds play their most important game of the year in the Hardy Cup Finals against the Calgary Dinos.
The CFL and our partners at Football Canada want to make sure we keep growing, promoting, and investing in a safe game. Football Canada now requires all amateur coaches to be safe contact trained by 2017. By creating a standard of safety for all in our football community, we're making an already great game even better. Make sure your youth coach is safe contact trained, because making a safe game means making a better game.
To say the Hardy Cup final was exciting would be an understatement. Isn't that right, Adam?
Yeah, UBC has just been absolutely thrashed by Calgary in the last 5 years. But since I jumped on the bandwagon, I've given them a little Cordic karma.
The UBC Thunderbirds have been fighting doubters all season long. Going into the season, UBC technically hadn't had a record over 500 for over a decade. Add a new coach and a new quarterback into the mix too, and lots of people had this team written off as being basement dwellers in the Canada West, but they have been fighting adversity all season long. Beating Laval in the preseason, finishing the regular season with a whopping 6-2 record, the Thunderbirds completely shut out the Manitoba Bisons in their first playoff game too. Now with the season on the line, they'd have to overcome their biggest test of the year against arguably the best team in Canada, the Calgary Dinos.
Thunderbirds, Dinos, Quinn Van Gilswyk hits the 27-yard field goal to put the Birds up 4-0. Calgary backup QB Jimmy Underdahl from a yard out and he puts the Dinos ahead 7-4. The Birds march downfield and Michael O'Connor throws a perfectly placed pass right into the outstretched arms of Marcus Davis, UBC ahead 11-7. And after a Calgary field goal early in the second, UBC finished their drive with Michael O'Connor finding Marcus Davis once again, this time from 33 yards out to put the Birds ahead 18-10. UBC gets the ball back and they put in Trevor Casey, their short yard specialist, who scores again for the Thunderbirds, who are now up 25-10 on the only undefeated team in the Canada West. But Calgary wouldn't just roll over. Andrew Buckley gets his team back in it with a nice strike to his tight end Mark Sarro. Calgary now down 25-17. And after a couple more UBC field goals, Mercer Timmis runs one in for the Dinos, getting them back in this one. Calgary down 6 with less than 2 minutes left to play, and Andrew Buckley finds a streaking Denzel Radford, who gets destroyed. UBC recovers the fumble and the Taylor Loeffler truck stick. The UBC would be forced to punt, giving the Dinos one last chance to come back and win the game with less than a minute left, but Robert Woodson fumbles the ball and UBC recovers. What a huge turnover for the Birds. And with that, Michael O'Connor would take a knee and seal the deal for the Birds, with UBC taking home the prestigious Hardy Cup. In the victory, Marcus Davis and Michael O'Connor had big days for the Birds, but it was the defense that really played exceptional, limiting Calgary to the fewest points they've scored all season.
Welcome to the UBC Report. Joining me in studio is our insider, Jim Mullen, the man who's 2-0 in playoff games when announcing the game, but we'll get to that later. First of all, let's start off with, I was thinking about questions to ask you this whole week, and just the game was so crazy. Why don't you tell me what it was like in the booth?
It was crazy in the booth, too, because it actually wasn't the game I expected. It may have been the game that I hoped for. We hoped that this thing was going to turn into a track meet. The weather in Calgary played along. It was about 8 degrees at kickoff, high overcast, so it wasn't one of those days where the snow was sweeping in over the Rocky Mountains. And the UBC Thunderbirds tried a few different things on offense. I think Blake Nill really saved his best for a game that it mattered in. A great tactician. And you know, at the end of the day, I was really surprised that Calgary didn't show more down the stretch in this game. I expected them to come out with their offensive line versus a UBC defensive front, that three-man front. It was really beaten up coming into this game. Tremont Levy didn't make the trip. UBC was substituting in players from their offensive line into the rotation of the defensive line. I know they did that in practice all year. That shows you how thin they were up front. And for some reason, Ryan Sheehan, the offensive coordinator of the Calgary Dinos, who was given the keys to the car for this very talented Dinos crew, decided to veer away from the running game, veer away from using the offensive line to grind down the defensive line, and Calgary got the yips, and they got desperate at times. And they tried to push the ball downfield at times where they shouldn't have been pushing the ball down the field. And at the end of the day, that was their undoing, I think. And
of course, this year, the Canada West is lucky enough to be playing the AUS and the UTEC Bowl. Besides the obvious stopping STFX, I think Ashton Dixon's got to be high up on the radar for stopping the run. What else should UBC prepare for next game?
Well, one thing they need to prepare for is a really long trip. This is like traveling to Europe in some ways, because Antigonish is the furthest eastern point in CIS football. So you've got Vancouver to the other side of the country, and there's no direct flights there. Let's put it that way. Matter of fact, there's no direct flights to Halifax. You've got to drop into either Toronto or Montreal and then connect in Halifax and then take a bus for about 2.5, 3 hours, I think. All in all, it can be a trip that the last time I went to Halifax for anything CIS related, it took me 18 hours to get there. It was like going to Tokyo or going to London, England.
You were talking a little bit before we sat down here about the special teams and how the special teams would get this one going in STFX.
When it comes to specials, Quinn Van Gilswyk is the X factor in this, pardon the pun with saying FX. But, you know, here's a guy that in this last game was averaging 49.3 yards per punt. This is what he's been doing in the playoffs. He's been getting better and better. Usually when you're playing in November, the elements dictate that you're not going to get better and better. He's had, I believe it's 5 punts in this postseason that have been over 60 yards. And they're not just over 60 yards the way John Ryan used to do them when he was in his first year in the CFL, where it would land just about anywhere. They would land between the number and the boundary. They would land inside the 5, but not inside the goal. The placement on these things is vicious right now, and I think that just based on his punting alone, UBC can win this game, because when it comes to 2-and-outs, I think Van Gilswyk can gain you 12 to 15 yards on every exchange. And when you're playing against a team and you're hemming them inside the 25-yard line, we saw it 2 weeks ago with Manitoba, you're not putting too many points on the board.
UBC has done it. They are your Canada West champs. It's no surprise that a team bolstered with BC-born talent has come this far. There must be something in the water. BC-born players on UBC have contributed to the team's success each week and into the playoffs. Keep it up. Now let's get to the CIS BC-born player report.
First, there was Victoria native and Mount Doug alum Marcus Davis, who went off in the Can West finals. He had 8 receptions for 99 yards and 2 touchdowns, helping his T-Birds clinch a berth in the UTEC Bowl. Then there was kicker Quinn Van Gilswyk, who also is a Victoria native. Out of UBC's 34 points, Van Gilswyk scored 16 of them, and also had a great game punting. Now here is a look at the rest of the CIS Playoffs BC-born player report.
Well, that about does it for us here at Touchdown BC. And you know, playoffs are amazing. I can't get enough of them, but I get a little bit sad too, because you know it's not going to last forever.
Yeah, it won't last forever, but this weekend it is going to last the whole day almost. We are going to have community games. We're going to have UBC 1 win away from making the Vanier Cup. And also at the BC Place, the Dome, we have high school football games all day.
Yeah, I mean, the community is pretty much wrapped up this week. You've got the UTEC and Mitchell Bowl this weekend, and then luckily the BC high school playoffs are in the quarterfinals, so we still got a couple weeks to enjoy that.
Yeah, I won't be able to sleep all week leading up to it.
He's Adam Kordick, I'm Ty Clark. We'll see you next week.
Touchdown BC is sponsored by